just want it to be easy for you and me. Easy for you and me. Harder now, it gets a little bit harder now. I just want it to be easy for you and me. Easy for you and me.
Cup Series. Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag. Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas. Get your front there.
He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is in.
Tonight, FDF.GG is live from Fuji Speedway on iRacing as a brand new season of SimCar gets underway. Tonight, it's the Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series with its opening round night here from Japan. Good evening, everyone. I'm Justin Prince. Alongside me is Joey Atterbury with Zach Johnson producing as we get set to go racing from the beautiful nation of Japan. Plenty of drivers, plenty of excitement, and plenty to talk about a brand new season with 8 rounds and multiple races to battle for points. It starts now, Joey.
Yeah, you mentioned it. 8 rounds from September through December here, kind of a fall-winter league, kicking it off in Japan at Fuji, but then several different stops along the way. Road Atlanta, Miami, Homestead, even back to Aragon. I see another stop in Japan over at Suzuka. Quite a mix of the different tracks here in this schedule.
And don't forget, for those tuning in for the first time with this respective series, 2 different types of formats you'll see throughout the campaign, for which races will be broadcasted here on FDF.GG. There's the sprint feature format, which is on showcase the majority of the season, and 2 endurance rounds. The 2 endurance rounds selected for this campaign: Homestead Miami Speedway's road course for 90 minutes, and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Very unique tracks in particular, especially with the thoughts on Homestead, but also the thoughts on the historic Montreal layout. Drivers already making their way towards the starting grid and rolling as we get set from Fuji. Let's take a look at our first sprint race grid of the season. 5 drivers in GTP start things off with Brandon Lambert and Josh Stoltz in the front row, Blake Reynolds and Paul Mikolajczyk. Then it's Aaron Beaver rounding out those drivers. Matt Kingsbury starts things off in the GT3s with Logan Grotto alongside Ray Kingsbury. Christian Youngwall and Cody Crossgrove amongst your top 10 cars overall in the field. In turn, 18 starters total. Your top driver in GT3M to start the season, Marwan Mofta, coming off a strong campaign last year. Brian Son, of note, promoted to pro for this season. That's a look through your respective grid as we get set to go, already getting set for the first green flag of the season from Japan. Joey, your quick thoughts.
I can't wait to see how these new LMDH cars are really going to race it out, because it's a relatively small field, but the GT3s, they're going to have to get through them at some point. I'm excited to see the speed difference.
Once again, we're glad to have you with us from Fuji for a brand new campaign as the iRacing safety car pulls off. 20 minutes on the clock for the first of 2 races to start the new season. You're looking at the GTP field as the field gets itself to the start box. The slow roll with a brand new class with all the cars. Now on iRacing, they take the green here in SimCar.
Green flag racing down into turn number 1 side by side, but it is that red and black Cadillac around the outside as now we get the GT3 cars diving off down into turn 1, and I gotta say, Justin, a really clean start.
Very clean start. Matt Kingsbury leading the way in the GT3s. Josh Stoltz leading the way off that initial start for the GTPs to begin the brand new season. Mofta curling at the top of the M drivers with Daniel Coletta providing pressure. Limits the pack already. Lots of shuffling, though, in the GTPs. Here comes Lambert, Mikolajczyk, Blake Reynolds, Aaron Beaver, all fighting aggressively. All as Stoltz tries to set the tempo early. Stoltz from Saucon Garage looking to run away.
That's Mikolajczyk and Reynolds, and I mean, really, that's 4 cars, like you said, stacked nose to tail from that second to the 5th place position. So early on, I also wonder about the tire warm-up in these cars. How long is it going to take as we have some problems? John Marchbanks looks like the number 30 off the track.
Marchbanks, one of the top drivers from last season for Kuoka Racing, purple this season. Already amongst those slow at the back. Daniel Coletta, one of the top AM drivers in qualifying, second in the AM grid, now also involved in the Ferraris. Already the first lap complete for the prototypes, meanwhile. Stoltz already with a sizable advantage, more than a second. And we talked about having all the cars in GTP now for this iRacing season. The Cadillacs all a part of the service. The Acuras now on the service too. Every car that runs in GTP actively is on iRacing now.
It's pretty cool to see the diversity of the fields grow here on the sim, and you're right, they got 4 different cars in this GTP category, or LMDH, as it battles side by side for what is now the 2nd place. Looks like Blake Reynolds is trying to go up and around the outside of Brandon Lambert here, but yeah, 4 different cars here in GTP, and I would expect there might be 1 or 2 more, maybe in the next year or 2, because I know Lamborghini is over there in WEC. I know Ferrari also has one in LMDH, so who knows what the future is going to hold.
Going to be very excited to say the very least on this campaign. Let's take a look at the replay real quick. Meanwhile, what happened in the GT3s amongst your top drivers in Pro and your top AM drivers. Wow, that was a shunt.
Yeah, John Marchbanks just got punted hard from, I believe, I can't make out which car that actually was, but unfortunate for both of them, especially so early on. I will say, Justin, thankfully it's only the sprint race.
Look on board, and I don't know what to say on that. That there was already the clear indication of the brakes in front.
Yeah, it can be tough, you know, closing rates. There's lots of different things going inside a driver's head. And remember, we're only getting that small clip. We don't know what really happened the lap prior. So, but unfortunately, John Marchbanks definitely got punted.
Meanwhile, looking towards our GT3s, the majority, in fact, all drivers tonight in either Porsches or Ferraris to start the season based on their preferences. You also have a couple of manufacturers that could be mixed in throughout the season, as we've seen with Simply Inspire Kuoka with their choices in the past. Already some slip and slides of smoke in the backdrop, but all of this is wow up at this front grouping. Some of the battles starting to form up here. Kingsbury still leading over Grotto. Ray Kingsbury in 3rd spot still, as Yunwall keeps close as well.
Pretty impressed with this GT3 field, other than Kingsbury kind of scooting out away, but even not that much, only a half a second. There's a couple battles that are just grouped together here. Porsches, Ferraris, mainly the players here in this class.
Remember, Penguin RC Simulation, the top team in GTPs and for the GT3 Pro classes last campaign. And in turn, you have to think that builds a lot of momentum, but also builds some pressure, because the AM Championship, much of the way, was led forward by drivers like Brian Son, the 03 machine. So now he's a part of those with the blue banners. That has to build up the momentum. Looking towards the front still, though. You see how things are faring out between your top 2. Matt Kingsbury over the 67. And Grotto was one of the last-minute entrants coming into tonight for Grotto Racing.
Currently chasing down our leader. Logan Grotto is in that Porsche. Matt Kingsbury, our leader, is in this black and blue Ferrari, leading the way, and actually runs really wide here in turn number 1. That's going to open the door for Grotto. Going to get that Porsche up side by side, but unfortunately, he's on the wrong side of the racetrack here.
All sorts of shuffling in the midst of all that. The 77 is amongst those who spun around there.
77 is Paul Mikolajczyk in his Cadillac GTP car. But look at this. Logan Grotto continues to really try to hound this lead, try to take over. looks like Matt Kingsbury still leading the way right now in this GT3 class. I wouldn't be surprised if we see the 67 of Logan Grotto continue to mount this charge here. And the other one that I've noticed, our overall lead has started to heat up. We're actually side by side for it. This is Blake Reynolds swooping up the inside of the 99 of Josh Stoltz. He is now trying to overtake, but the 99 is fighting back on the right side. See who goes later into this fast sweeping right-hander, and this might just open the door for 3 wide. Brandon Lambert thought about it, thought better as they go single file now.
And not making it easy, Stoltz. Keep in mind, Stoltz amongst those with some rear-world experience when it comes to the garage. If you remember that name and that paint scheme, he is actually a part of Action Express Racing as part of one of its special projects assistants. He's trying to hold off Reynolds and Lambert. Here comes Reynolds to the right.
This is down the front straightaway. We're going to see the top speed difference. These both are Cadillacs with the Acura in third place, and it actually looks like the downforce levels are very, very similar. Maybe Blake Reynolds just edging out 190 miles an hour as they hit the brakes into one.
Up to the lead, Blake Reynolds. Lambert, his teammate for this season, able to make his way through. Penguin RC 1 and 2. Things settle on down for the lead, at least for the moment. Now, we mentioned the 77 had a bit of a spin, Mikolajczyk, and he's had another one. Perfect timing.
Unfortunately, I believe this one was out of turn number 1. We're going to get the replay of the first spin here. So this happened a few laps ago to the number 77. And ooh, Justin, it looks like he might have tagged that apex curb and it upset the car into a snap spin.
And then the second time around, now it's the question, how did this time fare out? He had already lost about 10 seconds from the first spin, had been running well, battling up at front, showing big improvement, and on the brakes, bye-bye.
So, I know in the real world these cars are brake-by-wire systems. I'm not sure how much that translates here into the sim, but I know in the real world they have tons of problems, especially on cold tires.
For GT3 Pro's lead, Grotto making the move. The Kingsbury's now 2 and 3. And keep in mind, when it comes to that last name, Grotto, you may recognize that respective grouping. Some of the drivers in that respective camp, and specifically Logan, a member of the PCA club in the Golden State region. In the Golden Gate region, rather, PCA Zone 7. So if you keep an eye on some of that sim action, he's one of their top drivers from that region.
Well, he's got his hands full right now because ever since he took over the lead from Matt Kingsbury, it's also closed up, like you said, Ray Kingsbury and also Christian Youngwall. And I'd be careful of that number 55. Christian Youngwall is always one of the faster competitors on the track. And given that we're coming up to 10 minutes left here in the sprint race, catching the front competitors when he needs to.
Meanwhile, when the choo-choo train forming up amongst the Ferraris, still seeing how things play out for Youngwall. And Youngwall, keep in mind, showed lots of pace last campaign. Keep in mind with Guoco Racing. Just now settling onto the draft train. Still early going, though, just past the halfway mark in the next time by. Keep in mind, remember, Youngwall ran away every time up at the front last year. Not as easy this season, as you can tell already.
You got to remember, too, that these are the newer GT3 cars, so some of those models have changed a little bit, so maybe Christian's just still trying to get a grips with that brand new Ferrari that he's driving.
Yep, different make last year, trended more so towards the Lamborghinis, remember? And now, in turn, we'll see how this season plays, and a crash in the backdrop. GTP leaders started making laps. That is Marwan Mofta from the GT3 AM lead.
Yeah, like you said, the 191 here, and unfortunately has a meatball flag. You see the heavy damage on the front end of this car. I don't think that there was any contact that caused it, but there was actually a big wiggle out of Ray Kingsbury, and pretty much the same thing happened here to Marwan Mofta.
This season running under Guoco Racing's banner, and that brings Bogart into the conversation. because keep an eye on that left side. He's right now less than 5 seconds back in his Porsche. You know who's also back in the conversation for the AM win in the sprint race in turn? Coletta is just about 2 seconds back on the 69 now.
And it is busy at the GT3 leaders and the overall leaders because they have caught that front pack of 4. As you see Blake Reynolds trying to weave his way through as we go down the front straightaway, but he has given a big-time tow to Brandon Lambert.
Teamwork makes the dream work to get on through traffic, what don't you say? But of course, early on the season, still the chance to set the tone, still the chance to be able to set early points. Remember, in this series, the point system for the sprint races, 30 points go to the winner, 27 for second, 25 for third, 23 for fourth, 21 for fifth, and it goes down to 19 for sixth, and then 1 point on downward from there amongst the different classes. Still important to set the tone for a title fight. Mofta, no longer your GT3 AM leader in turn. It's now Bogart's lead by just under a second.
Yeah, and unfortunately has to serve that black flag, get those repairs fixed. And it's always tough when you have that really first off in a championship. You got to kind of shake it off and forget about it.
Let's take a look at what happened to Mofta. This was again in the backdrop just after he got lapped by Stoltz. Yep, there was a touch.
I didn't think that there was, but unfortunately, you're right. Looks like the 99 was trying to come through, but unfortunately, there was a Ferrari already there.
So in turn, as a result of that incident, Mofta out of the sprint race. And a spin right behind some of the GTPs now. These are some of the Kuwoka cars getting checked up. Ray Kingsbury losing time, Matt Kingsbury even more so, Fanning passing by.
And I think I saw Christian Youngwall involved in this one. Yeah, it's Youngwall that's currently going around Kingsbury, and the difference, I was going to say he's got headlights on Christian's car, but Matt Kingsbury, he has heavy front end damage.
What happened to Matt Kingsbury? The two siblings were 2 and 3, and they were scrapping for position. Well then.
Justin, what I think happened is you see the GTP car up underneath. I think that was probably just trying to leave room, got caught off guard way outside on the racetrack, and unfortunately, Youngwall was there.
Youngwall in turn making the contact, but Kingsbury getting the worst of it, it seemed, and the vice versa. But now, as a result, 6 minutes to go. Grotto is up in the front for the class for the pros by 1.7 seconds. We talked a little bit already about that regard. He runs a lot in the club scene for the sim side in the Porsches. So very comfortable positions here. Change for the AM lead though, because Bogart, who is a part of a new entry team for this season, Too Fast Racing, and a crossover from Beam NG of all places, has been passed by Coletta.
Yeah, trying to figure out exactly how this happened, and looks like maybe even the Porsche just that previous lap got out wide and was really an easy pass for Daniel Coletta to make. And now we're going to see if this AM lead is going to heat up at all, or if Daniel Coletta has the pace to just run away from Kevin Bogart.
And remember, he was a part of one of the first major incidents of the race. So he's driving with no left front headlight with the damage for Kuwoka. Can he hold on is the question. And despite all of that too, you could still give major credit to Bogart, because just made the mention of BeamNG. For those who do not know, that is another racing game that's known for its crash physics model especially, but also its modding scene. Too Fast Racing, in turn, has brought several drivers in for this campaign. Following the leads of one of the drivers we seen last year, Gary Freeman. Justin Stevens also set to take part this season as they learn how to be iRacers as they battle on behind them.
I think it's pretty cool. Isn't that what we're all doing here? Doesn't matter if we're playing iRacing, BeamNG, whatever it is. We're here with our friends having a good time as we watch this battle between Alex Axman and I believe this is also Gary Freeman that he's currently chasing for this AM 4th place.
Indeed, Axman trying to make the move. Axman also a newcomer for this campaign. He is also a GTP. originally GPP. That is from trouble Reynolds. Lambert takes over the lead. Blake Reynolds, with a few laps to go, spins it.
Oh no, and this happened in turn 1. He's only 1.8 seconds behind Brandon Lambert as we get this FTF GG replay here. And you see just lockup happens to Blake Reynolds on the entry, not even at turn-in at that point.
And he was running away with the race, too. The former eNASCAR driver and part of Nitro Circus competition virtually now has to catch up quickly. 3.5 minutes to gain 1.5 seconds. I was going to say it might be tricky, but he just gained about a quarter second during that sentence.
I was going to say, let's stay right here, because nothing is like a racing driver when he gets frustrated, he gets the red mist, he pretty much turns everything else off, doesn't listen to anybody, just puts his head down and then charges right back through the field.
Still in drafting distance, that's the major thing. 3 minutes to go, just a few laps to go for the opening race of the campaign. Remember, still a feature to go for 50 minutes, and pit stops expect to be a factor. Off the TGR corner, as they roll on through. The braking zones are Reynolds' major strong point as they head off towards Coca-Cola.
Looked much smoother there throughout turn number 1, and I'm also noticing a couple lapped cars, or I shouldn't say lapped cars, but GT3 class cars that these leaders will have to navigate, and this is an area of the racetrack. Look at the downforce that these GTP cars make.
Lots of traffic to come into play now. Reynolds zips on by one of the Too Fast machines. Too Fast also a supporter of this season's campaign for sim car action in the Grand Am series. But all that being said, only about 2 laps to go likely next time by at the stripe as they make their way on through GR Super Corner for the new track maps from Fuji.
Brandon Lambert had a big-time wiggle through that fast right-hand kink, and look at this. Blake Reynolds has drawn all the way back up to that rear wing, and I'm noticing the lap time. I think we might have 2 laps to go. Correct. Depending on when they hit the line here.
Minute 37, making a minute 35 of the clock as they make their way down the front. Lambert starting to play defense on his teammate. Stoltz 6 seconds back. And look who's back on the track. It's Marwan Mafta. And this, not going to play a factor for the lead, is going to play a factor for Stoltz. Oh, wow. Lambert and Reynolds battle it out, heading through Sector 1 through Coca-Cola.
Gonna come up on another GT3 car, and oh, so close. There was definitely contact there, and unfortunately, I believe that was Matt Kingsbury getting turned around. No, this is the 69 of Kevin Bogart. That was one of our AM class leaders. I'm sorry.
Check that on the car coming out. That was Matt Kingsbury initially who picked up additional damage. All that being said, 50 seconds to go. More traffic to deal with. Here comes Reynolds on the peak. Lambert drives right side of the traffic. Lap traffic moves on the side, stays out of trouble as they make their way towards Dunlop Corner.
Couple more slower corners here. See if Blake Reynolds is able to maybe slide it up the inside, or if he's going to wait around the final turn to get the draft down the straightaway. That looks to be the plan.
The run through Panasonic coming up to the white flag, this time by Reynolds with the draft advantage down the straightaway. Now going for the block is Lambert. Lap car ahead to work off of. White flag up on the stand, final time around for the sprint race. Now traffic to the left side, Lambert to the right side. Lambert stays up on the inside line, heading to TGR corner. Reynolds tries to go for the switchback as they head off towards Monty's Tunnel with the Coca-Cola corner.
It's the Acura out front with the Cadillac giving chase. Can Blake Reynolds come up with a move to get around our leader? Honestly, Justin, I think it's going to happen in the smaller, slower back section of the track.
Advent corner right here, but send through Advent corner. Nearly making contact next to the Advent tower in turn. Up to 300R. One more sector to work with. Lambert with a car length cushion or so. Up to Dunlop. 2 more sets of major corners to go. Reynolds to the bumper. Nearly hits the wing. Now traffic in front as they battle it out for the class win.
Oh, Lambert got held up big time by the GT3 car. Here comes Reynolds around the inside to the lead is the 66.
One more chance for Lambert up the inside. Out of Panasonic. Side by side, coming to the checker flag. Reynolds tries to hold on to the flag. Lambert tries to take it back to the flag. Reynolds goes right side. Lambert stays left. Checker flag as Reynolds picks up the first win of the season.
9/100ths of a second separated that GTP lead as we jump back to Logan Grotto. This is our GT3 leader. He's got a clean 3-second gap over second place Ray Kingsbury.
So Grotto's run goes well. Coletto's run picks up a GT3M victory over Freeman of 18 seconds the gap. But it's Grotto with the attrition building behind, who is able to take advantage coming up to the final corners here. And this is a driver that you may have some experience with the Porsche Club of America action. Welcome to SimCar. One race, one win.
Yeah, way to start off on a high note. Just got a couple more corners here to navigate. And really, if you're at this point with a 3-second lead, all he's got to do is get it around the racetrack right now. No worries at all in the mirror.
Checker flag waving for the club driver. From the state of California, it's Grotto, who holds on to take the GT3 Pro victory in sprint to start things off, setting the tone in a wild beginning of the campaign.
Ray Kingsbury will cross that line in second place. Christian Youngwall actually holds off a late charging Kevin Fanning for the final step on the GT3 podium.
Well, how about that for a crazy run, to say the very least, as drivers make their way to the warm-up session and get a chance to regroup here. There's a lot to be said when it comes to the unofficial results, you could say, when it comes to the sprint side of things tonight. Let's take a glance, if we can, towards that direction after an eventful one. Let's take a look at the replays here in turn while we work on getting those replay or rather results to you. This was Kingsbury. Remember, he darted out of the pit lane on the last lap. Yeah, here he is right here. Looked to almost be a pit stop. And massive damage, remember, for the initial contact the prior laps. Trish trying to finish the race at least. Oh, this is more so a turtle ripped off his front nose.
Yeah, you know, and I saw Christian Youngwall run over one of those earlier in the race during that half spin. It really bounced up the car, didn't damage him, but this is Kevin Bogart now in the Porsche. Unfortunately, that was Brandon Lambert, our leader, our overall leader, tagging the back end of the number 69 Porsche, and he gets into the wall.
In turn, you got to go for the lead when you got to go. That's what you can say, but let's take a look at those unofficial race results now that we have them on screen. Reynolds and Lambert, 0.092 seconds. Stoltz picks up a podium to start the year with Bieber and Mikolajczyk running at the GTPs. Logan Grotto starts off his series debut with the victory in the sprints. Ray Kingsbury and Christian Youngwall. Fanning and Son rounding up the top 5. Son in his pro class debut tonight. Also finishing off a fair bit back, a shocker for Cody Crossgrove, also a contender for SimRC last year. He finishes 2 laps down to the GTP winner. Coletta still picks up the win, though, by 18 seconds, the GT3M. Gary Freeman gets on the podium there with Alex Axman in his debut in 3rd. Kevin Bogart finishes 4th. Then it's Matt Kingsbury with troubles, as well as John Marchbanks squeezed in between them as Marwin Mofta and Marchbanks DNF'd in this one. Take a very quick step aside. We come back. It's the feature race. 15 minutes on the clock from Fuji. Welcome back to FDF.GG for more coverage of SimCar as we get ready for our first main length race of the feature round format. Just about all set to get going for tonight's action. Tonight's action brought to you in part by Penguin RC Simulation. For more information, go to penguinrc.com. Penguin RC, the title sponsor of the Grand Am Series. Let's take a glance once again at your starting grid as we get ready for the first feature. 50 minutes up on the clock, fuel limits in effect for the cars. We'll get to that in a second. Again, your running order carrying over from the sprint. Reynolds and Lambert, Stoltz and Beaver, Mikolajic in the GTPs. Logan Grotto starts off on the pole, meanwhile, for GT3, with Ray Kingsbury, Christian Yunwall. Benning starts off behind Brian Saun, rounds out the top 10. Then behind Cody Crossgrove, separation built up between him and Matt Kingsbury in the Pro. Marsh Banks also there. Coletta, Freeman Jr. and Axman, Muntz, Bogart, and Mofta in the AMs. And interestingly enough, Logan Grotto, after winning the sprint, has left before the feature.
I think this might have been planned because I see Ray Kingsbury in the chat. Since Logan left, he will be the control car. So I wonder if Logan had something else to go do. Unfortunately, we will miss him here in the feature.
So that leaves some points on the table, to say the very least. 60 points go to the winner of each class, remember, per the feature rules. 54 for second, 54 top three. We'll get to that as the season progresses in more detail. Remember, fuel limits also in effect for this respective class. GTPs 70%, 50% for the GT3s throughout the season. So, now that there's more time to work with, an extra 30 minutes, how will the drivers make the strategy work? We're about to find out. Safety car is off. Blake Reynolds and Brandon Lambert had a thrower to start off the season. The feature round from Fuji is set to go. You're watching SimCar in the Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series. Race number 2 of the campaign on opening night is green from Japan.
Launching down the straightaway in these new LMDH machines, it looks like Blake Reynolds does have the apex down into turn 1, and the GT3s are on the gas themselves. Ray Kingsbury leads the field.
Kingsbury holds them off in the red and blue machine. And will pop off one of the top Porsches. That is Cody Crossgrove battling with Daniel Coletta and Brian Saun also back there, along with Fanning. But breaking away early, Ray Kingsbury, Christian Yunwald. There it is, Brian Saun up to third, Fanning to fourth.
Really slipped that Ferrari up into that third place position, was underneath Kevin Fanning, and that was an impressive move, up 2 positions already.
Keep in mind, the shuffling expected to happen throughout the night, and it was the question coming into tonight actually for Saun. What type of car would he run? He said it'd be a last-minute play. Well, you see the play is GT3 Pro. All wow up at the front. Ray Kingsbury, bad corner. Here he goes off the racetrack, but holds off Yunwall for the time being.
I was really curious if we were going to see Christian Yunwall charge to the front. I wasn't sure if he had damage from that contact in the sprint race, but here in the feature, looks like he's got plenty of track position and already applying the pressure for the lead.
But remember, Ray Kingsbury, who's worked with several top teams in the past, especially on the oval side, someone that you think can handle the pressure.
Oh, we got to spin up for the lead. I'm sorry to cut you off. Brandon Lambert just had contact with Blake Reynolds in turn 1. I think that Reynolds might have got away with it, but Lambert, bun.
Your top 2 drivers in GTP are now 4th and 5th at the back of the field. How are their cars going to handle now? Lambert losing at least 2 seconds to Reynolds from that situation. The Penguin RC machines getting involved in contact.
And this was just, you could couple it down to maybe even cold tires, late braking into turn number 1 with the big-time draft speeds down the front straightaway. And unfortunately, Blake Reynolds, he finds himself in a hole that he's going to have to dig out of once again.
We also had Bogart spin as well for the GT3 AMS hearing, so plenty of drivers struggling in the early going, and we're not even 3 minutes into the feature. Here's the overall lead, and again, under brakes, and then on the outside. It was a different situation. I don't think they actually touched.
I think it was incredibly heads-up driving from Blake Reynolds. He saw the lockup in the mirror and pretty much turned left to avoid the contact, but I'm not sure if the rear wings came in contact. If they didn't, it was incredibly close.
And all of that in TGR corner. Here's the look going through Advan. And that's what spun around Bogart as an additional bit of contact. Was more so the cause. 3 wide is tricky around here, and that was nearly head-on contact. Brian Son, welcome to the pro class. He spins it around for the top 3.
Unfortunate for that Ferrari, but thankfully no contact. Didn't see him run over any of those big turtles either, so definitely loss of track position, but you can always climb back.
By the way, John Marshbanks already has had to take a tow on the racetrack. Also, looking for some excursions, that is Daniel Coletta from the AM lead with trouble.
Very cautious rejoining the racetrack. It's going to cost him a few more seconds, but hey, you know what? I like to see that. He is paying attention to his mirrors. Oh, he's got damage. Daniel Coletta,
No.
he's definitely got damage. He's going to have to retire, unfortunately.
Daniel Coletta, a big break, not going his way, the early going, but it is going the way of these 3 in GTP. Well, I was going to say that, but the gap is now down to less than a second. Just about. Reynolds is up front again. But Stoltz, who had good short run pace in the sprint, is holding off Beaver, is also holding off Mikolajczyk, with Reynolds now in the train.
This is an intense GTP scrap up front, and a lot of these faster drivers are going to be coming through. I've got my eye on Blake Reynolds, who's 4th in train, but Josh Stoltz in that black and red Cadillac currently leading the way over Aaron Beaver in the Acura. So we talked about that diversity in the field, seeing it right up at the front.
All sorting things out, and I'm curious on this. You're more so connected when it comes to real-world action, of course, an IMSA competition a bit as well. What does a special projects assistant do for a race team?
Ooh, you know what? That's a new name for me. That sounds something kind of fancy that you would probably have a white shirt on rather than the gloves on.
He was one of the notable drivers, keep in mind, just a few months ago in the FDF Rectangle 500 as well, so he's had some past few months of sim racing experience. So now he jumps to SimCar, and looking to hold on in the early goings here. Looking still, Mikolajczyk, major improvements from last season. Outside of the spins in the first race, he's got good speed when he doesn't spin it.
Currently, that white and blue car right in the middle of this 3-car train. Mikolajczyk is actually going to dip out driver's right. Take a look down to the inside here. I don't think he's going to try anything, but that opens the door. Blake Reynolds around the outside.
Reynolds says thank you very much. Makes the move in the 66. And Reynolds back in the podium positions. By the way, Lambert also back in the draft. But was about to say, Mikolajczyk had a lot of struggles when he made his debut in the GT3 class last year. He looks much more comfortable in this GTP, it almost feels like. But even though it's a faster car, it's almost like he feels more comfortable based on the field compared to the GT3 with what we've seen when he's in the pack. He's been able to fight for positions already. We've seen in the sprint.
Every driver kind of likes a different car, and it might just be, like you said, a better fit for Paul Mikolajczyk in this GTP car. And they traditionally have a little bit more grip than the GT3s. They make a ton more downforce, so they're a little bit more like a big go-kart to drive. You point the steering wheel, and it does exactly what you tell it to. But check this out. We've been in, 5 laps already, and we've got the entire GTP field lined up nose to tail.
All staying close to Stoltz as well. And you'd have to think again, with this being now the 70% margin, fuel strat also a major play here for this. Because if you try and jump the train forward or break away from the train, you burn a lot of fuel as the lead car. Why not save a bit in the midst of a draft train?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Justin. I couldn't agree more with you, especially if you're in the position like Blake Reynolds right now. He's in the third spot. All he's got to do is fuel save a little bit as he works his way through. We know that Brandon Lambert is probably his biggest competition when it comes to raw speed. So if he can save more fuel here, he puts himself in a better spot.
Here comes lap traffic. And that is Bogart, believes, staying along the inside, and contact for the lead. To the back end goes Beaver. Off the track goes Reynolds in adverse dodging. Mikolajczyk side by side now for second. And that was all trying to get it around the Porsche.
Mikolajczyk still trying to go around the outside. Now he's way up in the gray stuff. Not going to have the power down traction to get the drive off that he needs. But watch these two cars. Here comes Reynolds, 3 wide. Over, under, takes away those 2 spots.
Makes it look easy. It's not easy to do that out of the corner. Here comes the number 3 wide move. That's Lambert looking to try and keep up with Reynolds. No drafting hop up in front. Can he make this one stick? All that's well with the AM class having some troubles too. Busy times across the track. Reynolds makes it work. Not as easy for Lambert. He loses all the spots.
Aaron Beaver's in the white and black car on driver's left. He's going to throw it down the inside. Some door-to-door contact with Mikolajczyk. He's off the track, but he's able to save it. No spins. We're still racing.
Keeping it going now, heading to Advan. And my goodness. You talk about some aggression. You talk about nearly even footing. This is almost similar to what we've seen in the sprint race that broke that pack apart more so. As now Lambert can't get around Mikolajczyk yet.
I agree with the aggression, but you look at how they're racing. They're not slamming into each other. They're not causing any spins. You know, other than the Brandon Lambert, Blake Reynolds incident in turn 1, this has just been really good racing.
One of the 2 fast racing cars being taken off set 3 wide by the GTPs. And Mikolajczyk loses all his spots as a result of all that. Lambert takes the spot, Beaver to third. Up for the lead. Reynolds gains a second as a result of more traffic in front with the Ferrari. Stoltz already playing the defensive side. Reynolds, last time he was up on the left side, made the pass to take a spot away from Mikolajczyk. Nothing doing this time, not as easy here.
These are both Cadillacs up front, so the first Acura, you got to go back to Aaron Beaver in that 3rd place position. And, oh, here's a nice corner from Blake Reynolds. Josh Stoltz got caught up a little bit, kind of tripped over himself, but unfortunately really nowhere for Reynolds to go.
Not an easy passing place, keep in mind 100R. If anything, that run towards 100R, it's that spot for attrition. Advan, we've seen a few spins already, especially in past years on the service. Looking like great chances throughout Dunlop today with the no chicane to come into effect. More traffic. No doing yet from Reynolds as he waits for GR Super Corner. And a slide from Stoltz for the lead and on cue.
That was in a slow section, and it has brought up Aaron Beaver, Brandon Lambert, and Paul Mikolajczyk. So here goes Blake Reynolds, slips it down the inside, but what kind of power down can he get coming off of the corner? Now it's a drag race down the front straightaway.
The rest of the cars going 2 and 3 wide with some of the air traffic. Stoltz not backing down. He's not in save mode. He's in let's push like there's 1 minute on the clock at this point mode. 3 wide, zipping by one of the Porsches. Some of their fastest laps being set there. Stoltz makes the move back. Oh, wow. Beaver Mikolajczyk forced to resettle. Not over between Stoltz and Reynolds, though. They still have lots of traffic around them. They just finally get a clear air pocket, passing by one of the Ferraris.
Got to give it to Josh Stoltz in turn 1. He put up an excellent defense to hold off Blake Reynolds, and we're only 12 minutes into this one. Blake slides to the inside, way deep on this one, but Stoltz once again can put the power down. Another drag race.
Still side by side. Stoltz not backing down. More traffic ahead. One of the Coloca Racing cars now to deal with next. In fact, these are your top runners in the GT3 Pro class. Reynolds trying to go outside for a second. And now, what do you do here? You have two battles for the lead. Conversion as Lambert joins it.
Yeah, Lambert trying to get up along the inside, and it was really Stoltz that checked up the entire field. They're being incredibly nice to these GT3 leaders, and here's Aaron Beaver. We're 2x2 coming off of the final corner.
Big bobble from the inside. Reynolds gets the point, though. Now Lambert and Stoltz get back in line. That also breaks up the GT3 Pro lead, by the way, with Youngwall losing the most ground from it. Now, how does Lambert go? Remember how tight that got between the SimRC teammates to start off the season already. Not close enough for the pounds yet as Lambert. Stoltz staying within 7/10.
And Josh Stoltz runs wide there on the exit of one. Oh, big old door slam to Aaron Beaver. I'm not sure if he knew the 97 car was there, and now Beaver's going to go around the outside of the racetrack. Here comes Paul Mikolajczyk.
Major slow up for Stoltz as a result, so the UKSR car of Beaver moves back to the third spot. And this has been like bumper cars for the GTP lead tonight.
Well, it's heating up even more right now. Lambert's going down to the inside of Blake Reynolds. Backs out of it, but I thought he was all the way up alongside there. Well, the other thing, you touched on it earlier with the pit stop and the strategy. We didn't talk about tires at all. How much are these guys burning them up in the first 15 minutes of the race, and how much are they going to need them at the end?
Going to be a major question mark with how they're racing. You have to argue. But Reynolds and Lambert seem to be now setting into a tempo just like that now that they're 1-2. They've gained nearly 2 seconds. Now, shuffling back to Beaver for a second, remember, Aaron Beaver last season did start off a GT3 competition, believe Joey. And remember, he was one of those who then elected to switch to add to the numbers in prototype competition.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was about to say had some decent runs, but also had a lot of bad luck trying to get used to that car.
We were talking about it earlier with the swap with Paul Mikolajczyk, and some drivers, they can just hop into a new car and it's just like putting on a new shoe. You just go out and go running, while some, you got a few aches and pains, you got to redo the laces a little bit, but it looks like right now Aaron Beaver, he's come to grips with it and he's having a really good battle. Not only a good battle, but a really good race. He's got the lead right in front of him.
That's going to be the biggest tough difficulty, if anything, though. Keep within the draft of the SimRC cars because of all that work put in. Meanwhile, while this wrestling match has gone on, let's take a look at the GT3 Pro lead. Because Ray Kingsbury and Christian Youngwall, they've been close this whole time. They've been also nearly collided into by the prototype lead. They've broken away by 5 seconds from Cody Crossgrove and about 7 seconds from Fanning. So this is a 2-car battle for this GT3 Pro lead at the way things are shaping.
And it's pretty spread out in GT3 AM as well. Marwin Mofta is currently leading that class. If we take a rewind to that sprint race, remember Mofta had the heavy front end damage, so a little bit of a redemption run for the number 191. But these two cars, Justin, are lead in GT3 overall. I think that Christian Youngwall, he's been saving fuel. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to leapfrog Ray Kingsbury during the pit stop.
We've seen that play out a couple times before. But you just seen for the previous angle too. Marwin Mofta is now a part of the AM class for Fukuoka Racing. Remember, Mofta, amongst those who had great speed, also now works as part of the admin side of things with SimCar competition in the 191. Adding to the ranks, Fukuoka Racing has really seemed to inspire some speed, as we've seen in SimCar competition, to hint to last year's team name.
think one cool part about GT3 racing is usually the numbers, and not just your competitors, but also, like you were mentioning, your teammates. It tends to be a little bit more of a party than the prototype. So if you like racing with your friends, find a good team, join up, and these GT3 cars, they are a ton of fun on the track.
They can be, absolutely. And we've seen why so many top teams, well, race and have teams dedicated to learning these types of cars, not just with the endurance schedules, but also it's one of the top run cars currently. With, of course, that's seen its change over the years. We'll have to see how 2024 fares in the real world. Speaking of battles, though, you may notice that Stoltz is now back to fourth. Also, the lead has separated out with Lambert starting to have some wiggles in GTP, so things are starting to get interesting a bit there. We're still about 15 minutes, maybe 20 from the estimated pit window opening up for the gas stop, unless you want to split it up the middle at 25 minutes.
And if we take a rewind once again, oh, here we go, side by side. It was Lambert that put the power down really nicely coming out of the final corner. And really, look at Blake Reynolds. Is he down on speed? Maybe is he in a different fuel map?
We'll have to see, as the traffic does play a bit of a factor there. Lambert makes the switch. And now Aaron Beaver's just within about a second. He's within the draft of Reynolds. And you mentioned the fuel maps. How does that play in a factor here? Remember, GTP class, there's also that talk about the electronics we've seen with the BMWs when they were utilized in turn with the new car type. What's that now like with all the cars involved in all the updates as of late?
The other thing to consider too, Justin, is I haven't seen Blake Reynolds run off the track at all, but remember how big those turtles were for the GT3 cars? I wonder if maybe he picked up some damage on the underside of the car that's negatively affecting the performance.
Actually, a good point with all that. And keep in mind, you see those yellow little turtles. They're really snapping turtles as traffic snaps across the leader of Lambert. There goes Reynolds up the left side and back to the point, heading to Panasonic.
I can't say enough about the racecraft from Blake Reynolds between the sprint race and the handful of moments already here in the feature. Shown tremendous respect on the racetrack for his competitors, and he also has great vision outside the windshield and in his mirrors.
Well, when you spend several years at the pro level like he did, you kind of develop that. There's a lot of stuff you have to be able to keep your eye on your head on a swivel.
I agree, but sometimes, Justin, you know racing drivers, a lot of times it's in one ear and out the other.
It's not. Here's the thing, though. The best drivers are the ones who are able to process that information coming in and output it into quick reactions and speed.
Oh, yeah, totally. No, I agree. That's what separates the good ones, for sure.
Now, more lap traffic to come into play. It's been interesting each time. Now it's Lambert who gets some of the impact, as near impact to the back of the Kuoka car. Here comes Beaver to join the fray, and he gets hit by the Kuoka car.
Yeah, squeezed. That was our AM leader, Marwin Mofta. I know he knew the GTPs were coming through, but sometimes those cars get really, really wide. I don't think he did anything wrong, but definitely gives Aaron Beaver now a good shot going down the front straightaway.
If he wants it, it's the big thing. And that's the thing. Beaver, when he's close to them, can maintain with the draft effect. But look at that interval difference. It's taken until the halfway point of the straight for it to really kick in that draft effect.
I'm looking at the top speeds, 190 miles an hour before they get on the brakes there into turn number one. I saw our leader get checked up maybe just a little bit by a GT3 car, which means Lambert and Beaver going to have to deal with it kind of in an awkward section here. This is a fast corner, big time closing rate.
Traffic stays to the right side. And this will take a little bit for them to sort forward. Let's take a look at the GT3 Pro leaders again. And how much an offseason can change the complexion of an opinion on a driver or how the speed can fare out. We talked about different car for Yunwall for this season, but in turn, in the past we've been talking about Yunwall being at least 5 seconds up likely, or drivers like Kingsbury trying to close the gap, or Cosgrove battling for second with Ray Kingsbury or Matt Kingsbury or one of the Dirt Esports competitors. How much a summer can change things, to say the very least. You put them in the same type of manufactured car, and all of a sudden, it's dead even on the speed again.
I really do feel like Youngwall is saving right now on the fuel and also on the pace. You look at the fast lap comparison between Kingsbury and Youngwall, there's about a 0.3 of a second difference. And not to take anything away from Ray, he is doing a fantastic job leading this race, setting a pace that Youngwall has to keep up with. But I feel it's really going to come unfolded for basically Ray Kingsbury when Christian Youngwall has a much shorter pit stop because he's been saving that fuel.
And all that strategy will come into play again with the halfway point coming up in less than about 95 seconds. For reference, Cosgrove is still in third, mind you. Fanning still in fourth by a couple seconds. Matt Kingsbury and Brian Saul in your top six, as you see on your left screen. Coletta has been getting repairs this entire time. That's why he's 12 laps down. Mofta still leads by 16 seconds over Axman in his series debut tonight. Now keep in mind, Axman also part of the Too Fast Racing banner also.
Something I'm noticing, Justin, you noticed the sun starting to go down a little bit. We're getting the reflections on the racetrack, and this racetrack does have elevation. I wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe getting into the driver's eyes or maybe even playing shadows at different parts of the racetrack.
And that can play potentially with the factor on the shadow, or rather the track temps and conditions, you'd have to think. Especially depending on the time of day, also how the track progression and that in that time of day could play on in. Because that could also play in a factor how much you can save or push potentially if it's, say, hot versus freezing cold.
Well, and look actually right behind here as we're riding on board. I think this is our leader, Blake Reynolds. He just got checked up big time because he was incredibly respectful to this lead battle, and now there goes Brandon Lambert. He's going to get held up by Kingsbury as well, but manages to get down to the inside. That's going to open the door for Youngwall.
The door left open by Lambert. That sets it up for Yunwall on Ray Kingsbury up the left side. And in a Dunlop as contact as Beaver checks up into both of them.
Gosh, that was so close between Beaver and Youngwall still applying the pressure here.
Does Yunwall have damage from that? It looked to be a scrape, if anything. Doesn't look to be crushed in on the right side. And Ray Kingsbury may have just got very lucky.
I don't think that there was actually any contact between the two. I think it was incredibly close, but both of the drivers saw each other at the very last minute and swerved away from each other.
Just past the halfway point, by the way. Glad to have you with us for the start of the season. Sim car competition, the Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series debut for the season. Our second race, it's our first feature of the campaign. By the way, that was Stoltz. He's currently running fourth in the class for GTP. It's been aggressive for the class leads once the traffic has converged amongst each other. Now it's Mikolajczyk losing lots of ground. He's trying to be respectable to this battle currently on the left side of the track to 100R.
You love seeing it. I know it can be frustrating as a faster class driver to get held up after you've made up ground to somebody that you're catching, but I can't tell you how far that goes to these GT3 cars, and they don't have to worry about being punted.
In turn, on cue, it's pit stop time. Into the pit lane, this is Mofta to start up the window. He's already up on the jacks. Our first pit stops of the season. And Freeman is now the class leader. His teammate Axman doesn't want to give up the lead.
Porsche versus Porsche going down the front straightaway. Now it's Gary Freeman in the White and red with the green wheels. He just overtook Axman there, so you're right. Move him up to the AM lead.
How about that for a change of a season? Freeman had lots of struggles in his first ever season in any series, from my understanding now, as a result of that background given into this season ever on iRacing. And I know we talk about being that beam drive a fair bit. People think of it more so with the crashes, with the monster truck from Ryan Vargas, you can argue. It's got a modding community, mind you, that does have some devoted drivers. Now, the learning curve can be somewhat steep between that and iRacing, yes. But as you can see, Freeman's kind of the example of, after about a few months of driving, you can learn fully.
All it takes is the hook in the mouth, and it doesn't matter which game you're playing. I'm sorry, which simulator you're racing out there. You can have a ton of fun. And the other thing I was going to notice about this battle, I mean, what is a cooler name than Axeman if you're a racing car driver? That is so rad.
Very rad indeed. Did you just call Gary Freeman a fish, by the way?
No, I didn't call him a fish. I just, you can swim wherever you want.
Swimming into the pit lane, Aaron Beaver. This stint's been very eventful for him, and he's with a new look of team, UKSR, as we talked about. It's been interesting, let's put it that way. Changeover from the purple cars last year.
Rundle down what seems so slow down pit lane. Excruciatingly 37 miles an hour. Get it stopped there in the pit stop box. It is so important not to overshoot the box. Don't give away any of that hard-earned time that you've made.
Now, for those wondering what UKSR stands for, that is the United Kingdom Sim Racing team that's basically been running for a couple years. It's a team that is from the UK and Ireland, and basically their community being represented. And drivers like Danny Lee in particular broadcast a lot with their respective drivers running those cars. Brian Sam, by the way, with the pit stops underway from other GT3s, is now you're taking the third spot in this. The Kingsbury still push ahead. Others still up on the jacks, including Fanning, as the rest of the others zip on out.
You see this car coming out right here, Christian Youngwall. Okay, that's the black Ferrari coming out of pit lane. This was part of the lead battle. Now, I thought that he was actually going to basically overcut Kingsbury. He's going to try to go for the undercut now. He's pitted early. We're going to see how much fuel Kingsbury has to take when he comes down pit road.
Now, again, remember the Ferrari, they did update the Ferrari body and car available in the more recent build in iRacing. For those who are tuning in for the first time, no, that is not the Lamborghini. That's just a Ferrari that they put the lights in the nose on top of the headlights. That can be a learning curve. The Kingsburys, Matt just may have left Ray out to dry. Yes, so the one brother goes out, one brother goes into the pit lane.
And I'm looking through the rest of the field. I think it is only Ray and Brian Son still out there that have to come down and pit. And this is the 21. This is Matt Kingsbury entering pit lane.
So that's 2-second gap, pardon. So there was another Kawoka car between them. I apologize again. But this is around the end of the fuel tank that we were expecting for those cars. Now it's the question, GTPs. Well, is this the sign? Yes, it is. Blake Reynolds to the cone.
They've got these fuel numbers figured out pretty good, and it's about 50% fuel capacity for the GT3 class, about 70% fuel capacity for these GTP cars, LMDH, whatever class you want to put them in, but it looks to be about 30 minutes on fuel is what they last.
That's been usually the standard throughout the season so far. But in turn, Stoltz is back to second. And Stoltz, keep in mind, had the speed showcased we've seen very early on in this race. Oh, in trouble! One of the two fast cars going around. They keep going, though, as there goes Kevin Bogart. He's had a couple slides, but he is still 4th in GT3M.
I got to give it to Kevin. I just caught a quick replay of exactly what he did, and he got crazy loose on entry and held this slide pretty much Ken Block style the entire corner. Did an impressive drift and then had the heads up not to pull back on track in front of the competitors.
Well, that's one of the positives you can argue for from his background with beam drive. You can do a lot of drifting in that. As there goes some of the other cars, including Son over the back end. GT3 Pro, by the way, has cycled out for their lead. Christian Yunwall, as there goes Son passing by. Yunwall is up by 2 seconds, as you predicted. Fuel big there. Lambert is in. How does this fare out versus Reynolds?
Also curious, yeah, Josh Stoltz and Paul Mikolajczyk stay on the racetrack, so they are trying to stretch the fuel as much as they can. You see Christian Youngwall here. This is the black Ferrari rolling through turn number 1, and I'm curious to see how fast Youngwall puts down the pace now that he's in clean air. Somebody's given chase to him.
Keep an eye on how this all goes, but Yunwall, remember, was very difficult to stop once the rhythm came into play. Lambert, by the way, has finished up his pit service. You see that on the Delta. And Reynolds has jumped in front of Lambert on the pylon. There is a look at Reynolds. He does it by just about a second. Mikolajczyk and Stoltz right now yet to pit. They have only a 0.6 difference for the current lead.
You know, and we can get into that data all that you want, because thankfully we've got the pit stop times, and that GT3, remember, we were comparing that. 0.7 of a second, Ray Kingsbury was longer in the stall than Christian Youngwall.
Remember, Ray Kingsbury led much of that time. And that comes down in part, you have to think, one difference on the click on fuel to make sure you're comfortable on the gas to get in your green light to go. And Youngwall played it smart. Again, as to be expected when you're a champion in this car, in this series.
As he crosses the line here, I'm curious, 136.396. Compare that to Ray Kingsbury behind 136.31. So maybe I was a little bit wrong with my prediction here. The 25 showing some really good pace.
A couple 100s difference, keep in mind, you're talking about. But the main thing, though, is can Kingsbury get back to him? By the way, Mikolajczyk, he has gone through with some troubles on the pylon. Believe it's pit stop time there as a result. That leaves just one in GTP yet to come down for service.
Yeah, you're right. That would be the 99 of Josh Stoltz has yet to make his way down pit road as we continue to watch. This is the number 55, the black and yellow Ferrari of Christian Youngwall is going to deal with some of the lap traffic right in front of him. And this is actually really important. If you get held up here, which he does, maybe even contact, but that's going to bring Ray Kingsbury right back into the fight.
Taking a fight on through. Let's go back to this one. Lap traffic giveth, lap traffic taketh away. It's one of the more well-known cliches starting to build up these days, right? And it works like a charm every time, doesn't it?
I mean, you put the timer up on the board and look at this, 13 minutes. Oh, actually, Blake Reynolds getting pushed wide by Brandon Lambert. This is going to be for the overall lead.
Here we go again. Lambert looking for the run. Traffic overlapping at the right time for things to heat up again. Can Lambert make the move on the right side? Yes, he tries it. This is for the overall lead. Beaver completing his service right now. Stoltz and Mikolajczyk also complete there. Side by side for the lead as they make the way to Coca-Cola. Reynolds trying, can't. Lambert to the point.
Yeah, Reynolds backed out of that one. He had the inside line. I was a little curious on it. Maybe he's just saying, you know, maybe I'll follow the 46 for a little bit, let him lead. We got some GT3 cars right on the horizon, so that might just open the door even more.
More Porsches to deal with as they drive by one on the left side. Now up to Dunlop. This is now the overall lead for GT3. They look to get around. Door slammed quickly by Lambert this time. There's Christian Yunwall. And they've had troubles getting around the outside through this section all day. Yunwall 3 wide. Lambert tries to move up the outside. Reynolds goes left, tries to get the cross.
Yeah, he's going to put tremendous power down. And how many times have I said it already today? Another drag race down the front straightaway. This time it's Reynolds trying to give the side draft maybe just a little bit to Lambert.
Looking for the run with 12 minutes to go. They've gone back and forth all night long. Beaver in the popcorn seat, Reynolds back in the lead seat.
You have to report, unfortunately, looks like the 99 has retired the car. So we're down to 4 competitors here in the GTP. Doesn't take anything away from this fight that we are watching.
Still 4/10 the difference between these two. 11 and a half minutes to work with on the clock. And honestly, with how this has gone, the second it seems to calm down, somebody or makes a mistake, or they reach traffic. It's hard to predict to run a front runner or a winning way of this can go. When the second it calms down, all of a sudden you have, well, everything happen, it seems, tonight.
Just kind of the ebbs and flows of racing and what can happen out there on the racetrack at any given lap. And the other thing that I haven't mentioned at all, we talked about the fuel window, we talked about their tire strategy, and we've already covered that. But what if you didn't put enough fuel in the car? That can be a mistake that sometimes the drivers, they're so focused on a battle that they overlook those factors.
Yeah, you don't want to be that driver who realizes in the last lap, I'm not going to make it out of the final corner on fuel. That's a panic. That can cause panic. By the way, there's still spots in line on the podium to fight for. Matt Kingsbury at the back end, Fanny in the middle, Crossgrove up at the front part of this group in third.
That's Cody Crossgrove here in this white and black Ferrari leading Kevin Fanning in the Porsche. That's the white and blue Porsche giving chase here out of turn number 1. And you're right, this is a battle for the podium between these 3 cars. Matt Kingsbury, the black Ferrari, on the caboose.
Working through. No major slides through. Remember, Crossgrove, very consistent last year, too. He drove in the Porsche last year. So a different look moving over to the Ferrari, getting comfortable with this car type, and a very different color palette, you can argue, for this season.
Sometimes it's not about how fast you are on the racetrack, it's about how cool you look, and that translates to speed.
Here we go for the lead. Under 10 minutes to go. Lambert this time all the way up to Barney at the flag stand just about. Reynolds trying to keep it on the left side, meanwhile, up for the opening corner. Is that going to be enough to be able to get fully clear? No! Off to Coca-Cola, though. He does have the preferred line. And trouble for the AM lead. Marwin Mofta is off the track in the 191 as the GTP leaders fight. Mofta, who had a cushion of several seconds, has lost the lead to Freeman Jr.
So unfortunate, I actually see that Mofta has actually disconnected from the session, so he is going to continue to drop down to the bottom of the AM order.
An unbelievable change in that circumstance for the 191, coming at 8.5 minutes to go. Reynolds holding on to the point as we shuffle. But if things stay firm in the GT3M side, how about a change in a few months for Gary Freeman?
Doing fantastic out there, and looking like another AM win. He wrapped it up there in the sprint race, but I guess I still can't keep my eyes off of this GTP lead.
You need several different sets of cameras at this rate. Lambert nearly pokes, this time can't get there. But now it's the matter, when do you make the move? I know how simple that may sound with this type of race, but when would you be the one to make the move, especially knowing how even when it seems the move is the right one, nothing's really stuck yet.
You've mentioned the slipstream a bunch of times earlier. Oh no, this is our third place runner. That was Aaron Beaver off the track.
Aaron Beaver had a comfortable podium in hand. Now it's Mikolajczyk in line for third spot. Beaver already has towed the car.
Just things are unraveling here at the end of the Fuji race. Less than 10 minutes remaining, and all of a sudden, Paul Mikolajczyk finds himself on the podium.
This has been an amazing opener, you could argue. And there's still 7 races and 7 rounds, I should say, to go for the championship.
I'm going to jump in here. Yeah, totally. Sometimes you see a smaller field, right, Justin? And you think, oh, well, it's not going to be that exciting. But this race has been nonstop, especially this lead GTP pack.
It's been an interesting night, to say the very least. Again, for those just tuning in, final 7 minutes on the clock. First feature race of the season during the opening round of SimCar Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am competition. Reynolds and Lambert battling for the overall win in GTP. GT3 Pro still within a second or so. Yun Wall and Ray Kingsbury. But one of the major lines of stories, Marwan Mafta, one of the top drivers from Ram coming in. He has lost the lead after an incident. Gary Freeman Jr., one of the drivers who struggled mightily just 3 months ago, has become an all-new driver. He has a chance at his first career class win with under 6 minutes to go.
Just got to keep clicking off the lap times if you're driving this Porsche right now, which is exactly what he's doing. You mentioned the massive gap he's got to Alex Axman, the second place AM car. So right now, Gary Freeman doing a tremendous job. Just keep it on the racetrack.
Keep it clean. Just keep it clean. We've seen how busy it's gotten when the GTP leaders have gotten up to these prototypes. They're coming up in fast, and so are the GT3 Pro leaders. Coming up 5 minutes to go. Reynolds and Lambert. Things are calming down. For now, is the key emphasis. Lambert's still waiting for a chance.
I'm smirking over here because you say they're calming down as the time is running out, Justin.
I mean, in this circumstance, 4/10 seems to be calm.
I agree with you, definitely.
And just like that, I wouldn't be surprised if someone licks the stamp in the next 2 corners or 2 laps in Advent at this rate. But at this mark, Lambert's still waiting for the chance, it seems. What do you think's going through his mind here as he looks to try and regroup teammates here for Penguin RC? But they're racing, of course, for the first feature win of the season.
Take home the checkered flag if you can, but be respectful on the racetrack because you guys have raced a tremendous race so far. It would be a shame to have it end in tears, only just to have contact here in the last few laps. But remember, both of these drivers have struggled on the brakes into turn 1, so if I'm looking at anything side by side in terms of a braking out match into turn number 1, I would watch out, Justin.
And interestingly enough, if you can argue Discord groupings as teams per se, Mikolajczyk has been working technically with them in the comms all night. And keep in mind, this is a team that does assist a lot in terms of helping drivers learn with the setups. They provided baselines last year to some of the competitors in GTP, after all, and GT3. In turn, they're 1, 2, 3, and all in the same comm. So if anything boils over, Mikolajczyk has a chance if he can gain 45 seconds in 3 minutes.
Well, he might not have to gain 45 seconds because remember, these 2 lead cars were the 2 cars that came in contact in turn 1 early in the race. So if they're both spun on the side of the track, that's just free time for that third place car.
Free real estate after all. Lap cars move over to the left. Some of the GT3s to work with. That's one of the Kuoka cars quickly shuffled on through. Few laps to go in the race. Next up in line, this Fanning. Cosgrove is just in front. That is also a battle for third step on the podium in GT3 Pro, right in front of the GTP leaders. Very easy this time, not as much trouble.
Yeah, but look at Lambert. He's actually got a run on Blake Reynolds. I actually see him 2 miles an hour up already in the draft. Is this the opportunity that Lambert is looking for? He is all the way tucked up, showing the nose. Driver's right, but he's not going to play the card quite yet.
Will there be one to go, or will this be the 2 to go mark? Likely going to be 1 lap to go, I should say, at the stripe based on the timings here. But how will they be sorted once they get there is the question. Another peek to the outside by Lambert. He's been trying this swing through 100R all night long.
I think it's also getting a little bit of clean air to the front end of that car, help with the downforce. And I know we haven't talked about him at all, but it's still Christian Youngwall leading that GT3 class. Ray Kingsbury only about a second and a half back, still giving chase over there.
There goes John Freeman. He moves over as much as he can. Still a couple more GT3s to deal with, then some clean track for them to at least deal with. Here's the tough part. The GT3 Pro leaders are the ones they are about to overlap. Likely going to be the white flag. We'll see. It's about a minute to go on the clock once they get to the stripe. Keep an eye on the flag stand and what Barney does. There goes the lights from Ray Kingsbury. He moves over to the side. Less than a minute on the clock. Here from Fuji.
He is close enough. He is closing in the slipstream. Does he make the move into one this time? He is going to try to go late on the brakes. Dead even between the two. Blake Reynolds around the outside holds the defense.
Barney the flagman was waving the white, by the way, in the backdrop. This is the final lap for the first feature of the season. Lambert on the squeeze. Reynolds shuffled a second.
Around the outside, Lambert has shown that move earlier in the race, and Blake Reynolds once again has to concede the lead and almost into the back of his teammate.
Reynolds now trying to take the peak. Next braking zone is Dunlop. Reynolds looking for a chance to get alongside. Not the best chance quite yet. Has a better run, though, up the right side. A send up once again towards GR Supra. Preferred line for Lambert. Reynolds with a switchback. Reynolds back on the left side. A slide from Lambert. Near contact as they make the way to Panasonic. Final corner. Lambert up the right side. He tries to pinch off Reynolds. Close call down the straight. Reynolds with the nose. Lambert trying to pull him back. Checker flag waves. It's Reynolds who pulls off Lambert at the stripe. 4/100ths of a second.
You couldn't have written that any better. Oh my goodness. This is Christian Youngwall coming across, claiming the GT3 class win.
And Freeman Jr. gets himself the AM victory in all of this. How about that for Too Fast Racing? They go fast enough to go 1-2 on team debut.
Just smiles all around, I'm sure, for the class winners, even Brandon Lambert, who put up the heck of a fight to claim the second spot overall. But man, what a round one. This was some fantastic racing.
An unbelievable run, and yes, that is your leader. I believe Youngwall tried to join in on the burnout fun in the midst of the sand trap. Hence why all the circles are there. But my goodness. Yeah, that's a lot of circles.
Well, you know, these GT3 cars with the good traction control, you just got to go out in the sand to play.
It's a burnout party. Mikolajczyk already celebrating a podium, his first. He does it in the GTPs. There's a lot to break down here with the unofficial results. Let's take a look. 0.43 seconds. It's even closer than the first race of the night. Mikolajczyk finishes third. The Emerson class had DNFs. Yunwall, Kingsbury, and Cosgrove, your top three. Meanwhile, in GT3 Pro, Fanning and Matt Kingsbury. Brian Sod, very quiet tonight in the 9th overall spot. And Gary Freeman, he wins in GT3M. Wow. Let's take a look at the rest of the order. Axman and Bogart, along with Beaver, Stoltz, Mafta, Coletta, Marshbanks, and Grotto, also with troubles. Grotto did not even start the run. What can you say, Joey? That was an eventful start to the season.
I loved it. I absolutely love this series. I really do feel like the sprint race plus the feature race format, it provides maybe a second opportunity or maybe to apply those halftime adjustments, if you will, to the feature. And I just think it's a really good format.
Let's talk first with your overall winner and your GTP winner in the feature race tonight. Blake Reynolds picks up the win. Well, that was an eventful start to the season, wasn't it?
Yeah. I did not expect that. I'm still sitting over here in turn one. I haven't even left the car yet. Brandon put up a great fight. I was just trying to keep my tires on it because I knew with all the traffic we were catching and some of the way, like the brakes, I had a mistake in that first race. I got on the pedal too much, just trying to get lap time. And in this car, you kind of want to stay off the pedal and get more battery, like through trail braking. And I was just pushing too much for lap time. That's how I lost the lead in that first race, and I got it back from Brandon. I was in the 50-minute race. We have increased this feature race, so it's actually longer than the official IMSA races. And in those races, the tires are already shot. So we gave ourselves 5 extra minutes here, and it's kind of depending on the track if you take tires or not. So I didn't take tires here. I don't think anyone did. But yeah, I could feel it at the end, and certainly Brandon was too. Our fronts were not doing well. I had a little bit better acceleration, but oh my God, what a race.
Yeah, I was about to say, it got to the point where we were discussing with a few minutes to go, just running single file 4/10 apart seemed to be the calm. Because every time it seemed things settled down, lap traffic made it 3 wide down the straightaway. What was that perspective with all that layering of the traffic, but also just how the intensity level seemed to never calm down tonight for some reason in GTP across your whole class?
I think it's exactly what I was saying. Everyone's just trying to keep the tires on it because they're probably trying to just keep it going. I know I popped off a couple fast laps, and I definitely wasn't running as fast as I could have. The caddy, in these cars, it's just so easy to overheat the tires if you are pushing, and then once you overheat them, I don't know if anyone's ever driven the next gen that's watching or you guys, but it's very similar. You just do not want to overheat your tires. It's like having damage. That's how much slower it becomes. So just no traction. You can't turn in, and you're all over the place. So I was just doing the best I could to keep those temps down. Luckily, these cars, nice and fancy as they are, all these cool electronics, I could see my temps on the wheel and my tire pressures live. So that's really cool with these GTP cars. Yeah, that's kind of what I was going off of. And I was in the channel with Brandon. We were just going back and forth like, oh man, like just wincing at or almost contact. It was fun.
Now, with that being said, still 7 more total rounds to go. Next up is Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Your thoughts on that? That's about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, it's a fun track. Petit Le Mans coming up, IMSA finale in real life and on iRacing. So that's why we put that there, and hopefully everyone's using our race to prep their setups for that weekend.
Any shout-outs you'd like to give for this run tonight?
Of course, Penguin RC Simulation. You can use code Blake on shoppenguinrc.com. That's what it is. And of course, everyone, Too Fast Racing for sponsoring SimCar also. And you guys for broadcasting, FTFGG. We're going to have you for 3 more times this season. So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, congratulations once again on the run tonight.
Yep, thank you.
Blake Reynolds picks up the win in GTP in the feature. Brandon Lambert finishes off second in turn in the class in a thriller. Both races, in fact, he's with Joey.
Brandon, first of all, congratulations on the second place. Have you been able to catch your breath from the finish yet?
Yeah, I've caught my breath.
I mean, two extremely impressive finishes between the sprint and the feature here. I know that you were one step shy, but talk to me about your race. How did you feel it went?
I felt it went okay. I burnt up the front tires early in the session, and that kind of hurt me there at the end. But I'm still learning this car. It's a brand new car to me. I've never ran the prototypes in actual official racing, so just done some practice sessions. But the car is a lot of fun. I really enjoy the Acura. I know a lot of people are a fan of it, and some people hate it. Personally, I love the car, but yeah, great overall first race for me at a track I'm not that great at. So I'm very happy with my second place finish. Me and Blake had a great battle.
I'm actually happy you brought up the Acura there. What maybe draws you to that specific type of car? Because here in iRacing now, you've got a few to choose from.
The Acura, I am just a huge fan of Honda and Acura, so my choice was pretty easy in the LMDH. If they would have brought the Acura NSX and a GT3, I'd be driving that too. So that's just, for me, I just like Honda and Acura and like to represent anytime I get a chance.
How tricky are they to drive? Because not only did we see you have an issue going down into turn one, but Blake Reynolds also had plenty of issues throughout the night. It seems like maybe that brake-by-wire system still a little tricky to deal with.
Yeah, it's brand new to me. I've never dealt with this kind of system before, but yeah, I locked it up going into one, and then the hybrid drive-by link, whatever, it decided to lock up for me and spin me around. Luckily, I didn't take anybody out and got some of this minimal damage between me and Blake, but yeah, it's a whole new monster.
You got any goals for the season? Anybody you want to give a shout out to while we still got you here?
Goals this season is just finish every race, and if I can get a podium at the end of the season on the championship, I'll be very happy with that. Blake's a hell of a competitor, and staying with him is pretty tough. But yeah, my shout outs just go to Brian Son and Penguin RC for sponsoring me, and Complex Simworks, and everybody at the SimCar group. I love putting on these shows. So I hope we continue to grow and get bigger and continue to do great things here.
Well, that was the second place finisher, Brandon Lambert, in the number 46 Acura today here at Fuji.
And of course, very strong in the sprint. In turn, was talked about the back and forth there. Christian Yunwall, he was Christian Yunwall. It took a little bit to see Christian Yunwall of last season to come out in full form. Christian, how would you describe tonight in the Ferrari?
An experience, definitely new to the car, haven't really driven it. Complete different from my beloved Audi that I usually only run in GT3, so this is like a whole new learning experience, so definitely took me a little bit, and Fuji not being my strongest track, I would think. But yeah, definitely a little bit of adjustment compared to last season.
Well, the sprint race seemed to be very eventful. Contact as well in that one. What was that race like in turn? The first race with the Ferrari in the series.
Oh, it was a blast. Me, Matt, Ray, and Logan, who it was a great race from the Porsche. Unfortunately, he had to leave early for something, couldn't make the full race. But we were having a great battle. We were all within, I think, a tenth of each other if we had a good lap. So we could have easily battled the whole time. But I think once that GTP traffic hit, Ray was a little off his line. I was braking a little early, looking in my mirror. I don't think Matt's looking at his, so we had a little contact. But I mean, up until then, we were basically all just going at it. I think I was really enjoying it. Even second race with Ray was really enjoying going at it.
And switch over to the second race. What was the strategy play in turn, or rather the thought with the strategy, how it worked out? Seemed to be very patient following the Yunwall script of last season.
Yeah, it's actually almost similar to the season opener last time with, I forgot who it was, maybe Cody last time, who I followed to the pits.
Yes.
But yeah, after about the first 3 laps, me and Ray, we were talking a little bit, and he basically had a different setup from what we were all running in our Ferrari. So certain corners, especially the last corner exit, he was stronger at. So once I realized I couldn't get him on the front straight, I knew, all right, I could lift 250 every time now if I just follow him. We're the same speed, not losing. And then I had a feeling if I jumped in a lap before in the pit lane, he might mess something up. He might underfuel. He might overfuel. And I just think I just happened to get him by like a second or something in the fuel.
So the next race, meanwhile, is Michelin Race through Road Atlanta. That comes up to the INSA finale coming up. The Petit Le Mans coming up around the corner. What's your thoughts on Road Atlanta?
Oh, I love Road Atlanta. I mean, it's a little smaller of a track for multi-class like IMSA, especially with the GTPs. But I mean, I think that just makes more for fun racing. I think the Ferrari is going to feel fantastic there, and I think we'll have a good amount of people that'll be battling each other again for that front spot.
Any shout-outs you like to give for Kawoko Racing? Dropping the simply inspired part, it seems, this season.
Yeah, unfortunately, Taylor hasn't been around our sponsor, him and his wife, so unfortunately not getting sponsored by them this season, I would say. But no, still have around, I think, similar drivers, if not we gained one this season, so doing good. So shout out to everyone from us. We didn't have the best day. We had a good amount of incidents, and these sausage cribs really killed this car around here, so I know we definitely had our moments, but hopefully we'll come back next week, and like thanks to I guess all the guys at SimCar and Too Fast for putting this on.
Is it bad I didn't realize that was part of the sponsor with that? I thought it was everyone is part of the Kuoka.
Oh, yes, Marwan. Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Either way, Christian Yunwall picks up the GT3 Pro win. The GT3 AM win goes to a different driver. Gary Freeman picks up a win. Well, how about things changing over the course of a summer, Joey? He's with you.
Yeah, standing by with the driver of that 666. Congratulations on the win.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's kind of interesting to be up here. I didn't know this room existed.
Well, we're happy to have you here. We even got your name on the chair.
It's taped on, right? I don't know how many times I'm going to be back. I want to be back.
It's got the blue tape. It's got the blue tape. Don't worry.
Okay. I would say this is new. This is surprising.
What did you think of the Porsche out here, and how did you feel the first race went?
I like the feel of the new Porsche. It's definitely a change. I know you guys have watched me struggle between the Ferrari and the BMW over the years. And this is the first car I feel comfortable in, which is surprising. I figured this car was really going to hinder me. Little bit different in the setup, and it's actually got a pretty good balance. Car really came in at the end of a long stint, though.
Well, if you love the Porsche so much, I have to ask you, what draws you to it? What does it do that you like?
To me, it just has a better balance under it compared to the old outgoing Ferrari and the M4. It doesn't feel as twitchy. It seems to respond better to inputs. It may be a little understeery, but that's just a little blip of the throttle to get it back under you.
Well, it seems like you've got a happy machine underneath you. You were second in the sprint race, claimed the feature win. That's got to be some good positive momentum rolling into Road Atlanta for you.
It is, and it's also uncharted territory. The only time I see this high is on an inversion.
Well, don't sell yourself too short out there. I thought you had raced a tremendous race, and like I said, carried positive momentum, second in the sprint, moved up to the win in the feature, and congrats on that checkered flag here.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. It's nice to actually get to talk to you guys for once.
Anybody you want to give a shout out to while we still got you?
I definitely want to give a huge shout out to everybody at SimCar that makes this league possible. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody at Too Fast. And I definitely have to give a major shout out to Matt, Ray, Marwan, and Cody, because those four guys have pushed me to better my craft.
Well, I'll make sure to keep the Sharpie and the blue tape ready to put your name on it for next time you're here. That was Gary Freeman, your winner in GT3 AM at Fuji.
I'd like to thank all those drivers for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on FTF.GG. Still a very stunning turnaround in terms of the speed for Freeman, a major improvement, I will say. But a major fight in both the races in GTP. Some dramatic moments in GT3 all night. Joey, that was an exciting way to start a season, wasn't it?
It was a heck of a way to start the season between the nonstop battles in GTP. And then I think what really caught me off guard in the interviews is I was really impressed to see that Christian Youngwall was really pushing, and Ray Kingsbury did, in fact, have that raw pace. I think throughout the season, watch out for that GT3 battle.
Now, on that note, throughout the season, as mentioned prior, 4 races broadcast throughout the campaign. This campaign, the next time FDF.GG catches up with the series, it's for Homestead Miami Speedway. That's the first endurance race. An interesting place for an endurance race, yes, but it's Road Course B. It's a racetrack some drivers have gotten experience with, including in this series with across the service and racing. That's going to be interesting for 90 minutes, though, at Homestead.
I have a lot of experience at that racetrack, and let me tell you, it is incredibly low grip. It's pretty technical around the slower speed sections, a totally different racetrack than what we saw here today at Fuji.
That'll be October the 19th. Coverage starts 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the 90-minute action. Be sure to tune in on FDF.GG. But on that note, it's time to say goodbye. For our broadcast partner tonight, Joey Atterbury, for Zach Johnson, our producer, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the season opener for SimCar and the Penguin RC Simulation Grand Am Series from Fuji.